Greetings, creatives, and welcome to CreativeSpeak Live, a cultural seminar focused on creatives of color. I am your host, Baba J., founder and chief creative of the Creatives Everywhere Collective. Our mission is to promote, amplify, and elevate creatives of color around the globe. Thanks for being here. If you are an aspiring or burgeoning creative, we invite you to connect with us, especially our Create and Collaborate initiative. To find out more, scan the QR code you see on the screen using your smartphone camera. On the subject of art, Ossie Davis offers these powerful words, and Jean Noble's beautiful. Any form of art is a form of power. It has impact. It can affect change. It can not only move us, it makes us move. CreativeSpeak Live draws people together as a creatives community. Today we have a fabulous program. The order of the program is as follows. Our guest, Deonte Griffin-Quick, will deliver a presentation which will be followed by a question and answer segment. Your questions are welcome via chat, and a member of our team will deliver your questions in the order they come in. For closing, Deonte will present final comments, which will end the program. Now to introduce our guest. Our esteemed guest is Deonte Griffin-Quick. New Jersey produces some enormously talented people in the arts and other fields. Deonte is one of the gifted New Jersey folk. He is nationally known as an award-winning actor and arts administrator and consultant. As a director of programs and services for the New Jersey Theater Alliance, he builds lasting partnerships, leads initiatives statewide, and uses his leadership to support and cultivate more than 40 professionals theater companies. Awards have been bestowed on this young man, which includes the Broadway World Regional Awards, the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, and the Union County Urban League of Young Professionals. Deonte has pursued undergraduate study at Kean University. He's studying arts administration on a graduate level at Drexel. Deonte is an aspiring young administrator, and I'm honored to introduce you to Deonte Griffin-Quick.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction and the invitation to be with you all today. Again, my name is Deonte Griffin-Quick. I use he, him, his pronouns as a visual description for those who might have vision loss or low vision. I am a young Black man in my early to mid 20s. I have caramel skin, I have short, dark hair, and I'm wearing a black hoodie with stripes on my shoulders. And I'm just super excited to be with you all today. I'm calling in this afternoon from Linden, New Jersey, better known as the land of the Lenape people. I want to honor the people who have cultivated and cherished this land for decades and centuries beyond my existence. So I'm very grateful for the land on which I am, and bring you greetings from to wherever you are as well. So I'm super excited to dive into this presentation and this conversation. Again, I just want to thank CreativeSpeak for inviting me, for giving me this opportunity to talk about the work that I do, and hopefully will inspire you all in your artistic journeys as well as creatives. So I'm going to share my screen in a moment. Again, so this conversation is really based on balancing administrative work with artistic practice. As was mentioned in the introduction, I am both an actor and an arts administrator, producer, and I'll talk a little bit about the many different hats that I wear in the creative world, as both an artist and as an arts worker. So hopefully there are some folks even listening to this who might identify as being a creative and a creative culture bearer or a cultural worker or producer. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about the balance of those two things and how they can sometimes conflict with one another. So just a little bit about myself. Again, I'm an actor, I'm an arts administrator, I'm a consultant. I've been doing many of these things for a number of years now. I've been acting probably since I was about 60 years old in various capacities, and I'll tell the story of how I got started in just a moment. Currently in my full-time work as an arts administrator, I'm the director of programs and services for New Jersey Theater Alliance, which is the statewide service organization to 40 professional theater companies throughout the state of New Jersey. I've been with the organization about 6 years now, serving in various capacities, but now ultimately being the director of programs and services, which really provides insight and guidance to programming that we offer, professional development opportunities for artists and arts and theater leaders throughout the state. I focus a lot on the intersection of diversity, equity, and inclusion in my work and how we can make our programs and our theaters more inclusive to particularly people of color. I also am a consultant, and I have worked with organizations and companies and clients across the country, particularly in the realm of diversity, equity, and inclusion, of updating policies and helping to create more inclusive spaces and more safe spaces for people of color to work in the creative field. And much like this platform, I do a number of speaking engagements throughout the country as well, many of them virtually, but I travel across the country talking about my experience and advocating for topics that I'm passionate about and that I believe in as well. And on top of all of that, right now, I am soon to be wrapping up my course studies at Drexel University. I'm currently pursuing my master's degree in arts administration at the Westfall College at Drexel. So super excited to talk about how I balance and do all of the work that I do and all of the work that I'm passionate about. So as I mentioned, I've been acting now probably for just about 20 years in various capacities since I was 6 years old. Always tell the story that I got my acting start from my grandmother. Actually, my grandmother was a writer who hosted these community plays, and she was the director of a community choir. And one of my very first performance opportunities was performing in one of her plays. And I think that's where I got the bug to want to be an actor, knowing that I had a desire to be on stage and performing in some capacity. So over the past 10 years or so, I've been working professionally as an actor. I studied theater in high school. I went to the Union County Academy for Performing Arts. I studied theater at Kane University, graduating with a BA in theater and communications. And I love the work that I do as an artist because it fuels a little bit of what I believe is my calling, what I believe is what I've been placed on this earth to do. I believe that I've been given a gift to give voice to stories that I am passionate about, that I believe the world needs to hear. So I really believe that, you know, I try my best to align myself with opportunities, projects, and work of theater that align with my values. And we'll talk a little bit about values in just a moment. But beyond just, you know, myself as an actor too, I know that I am a person, an individual, and I have to allow those experiences to influence the work that I do as an actor. You know, I'm a son, I'm a grandson, I'm a brother. I am a, you know, a friend to so many. So I pull from those personal experiences, and I pull from those stories of people that I'm connected to, the people in my life, and allow that to fuel the work that I do as well. And I believe so passionately about, you know, being an actor and doing the work that I do. I've performed particularly across the East Coast here in the States. From New York, I've performed at the Apollo Theater. I've performed at McCarter Theater Center in Princeton, New Jersey. I've performed at stages in the Prudential Center, and I've been, you know, afforded the opportunity to grace many stages over the past 10 years or so doing the work that I do. But I always relate it back to just my humble beginnings of being a boy from Linden and just wanting to create art and wanting to give a voice to people that looked like me, to stories that I connected to, and knowing that I had a responsibility even to do and to cultivate the gift that was placed inside of me. but how do we do this as a producer and a arts administrator? Arts administration, I always tell the story, is not something that I set out to do. I knew that I was an actor. I knew that I was a performer, but arts administration was something that called me. I was very much so, on the path of saying, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be in theater, and I'm going to be on Broadway, and I'm going to do movies and film and television. And then arts administration called me. I was set out to start auditioning and being a working actor, but I got some opportunities to work with some really great organizations like New Jersey Theater Alliance. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the ability to cultivate programs and produce work that supported other artists as well, other artists like me. So I've been very passionate about being in the room and being at the table, particularly as a young Black man doing this kind of work and making sure that there are opportunities and systems and spaces for people that look like me to do the artistic work that they want to do. But that's not easy to try to balance sometimes. Sometimes there is a conflict of interest, when I get to be in certain places and people know me as an actor, but I have to remember what hat I'm wearing as the arts administrator. And so it's so important to me to try to find balance in that because, there are times when I can't do both. There are times where I have to focus on my arts administration work because it requires me to put a little bit more effort into it just based on the time and the programs that I'm managing. I'm also a producer as a freelance producer with an organization called Art Yard that is based in Frenchtown, New Jersey. And I'm helping them to cultivate a theater program where we're developing and creating space and opportunity for new playwrights, emerging playwrights, to create new works of theater that are really based in transforming our communities around us. So I'm very much in the mind of trying to figure out, well, how do I balance? How do I do both of these two things? Because I believe that my truth and these two things that I have been called to do can coexist. A lot of times I had the folks really early in my career telling me that I couldn't be both things, that I couldn't be an arts administrator and be an artist because one was going to have to give more and I would never be able to focus on one. And so that brought me to this question of how to balance administrative work and artistic practice, knowing that I am equally two of these very different things. And how do I see about how do they feed each other in the process? So there might be somebody else who's watching this or who might watch the recording later and be asking this question of how to balance administrative work and artistic practice. But I'm here to tell you that perfect balance does not exist. I hate to break it to you, but it's never going to happen. You're never going to find probably the ideal situation where you are equally these two opposing things in your life. But I'm here to let you know that you can still find fulfillment in that because I've been able to learn my season and learn how to ebb and flow. I think that's partly because I'm a Pisces, I'm a water sign. So I know how to ebb and flow with the tide as life develops and life unfolds. I've released myself from the pressure of saying, oh, I have to be doing these two things simultaneously, but knowing that there are some seasons. I'm a believer. I believe scripture says to everything there is a time and a season, a time to plant and a time to pluck. I believe that there are certain seasons where I'm planting the seeds for me to be an artist. And there are other times where I'm planting the seeds for me to be an arts administrator. But I know that there's a harvest because I know that these things have been planted in joy. And I've learned to center joy in the work that I do as an artist and as an administrator, because it can be conflicting sometimes. It can be overwhelming sometimes. It can be tiring when you feel like you're, some days I go to my 9-to-5 job and then I have to leave a little bit early because I have to go to rehearsal. And then when I come home from rehearsal, I'm finishing up the work that I didn't get to do during the regular workday hours, or I'm submitting, headshots and resumes for auditions, or I have to do a self-tape but I know that I'm passionate about the work that I do. So it is all about balance. And we'll talk a little bit about strategy on how to balance, but yet still knowing that there is never going to be a perfect balance to the work that you do. But when you find joy in it, when you find gratitude and fulfillment in it, it makes it a lot easier to quote unquote balance. And I believe a lot of the big part that helps me make the decision on how to balance these things is related to my values as an individual, of my values of how I've been raised. I attribute most of my work ethic to my mother and my grandmother, who were both single Black women taking care of their children. And so they worked a lot. So I saw them work multiple jobs. I saw my mom work 2 to 3 jobs at a time to make sure that I was provided for. And so that's where my work mentality comes in, of knowing that it is possible when you're doing what it is that you set out to do and the goals that you have set out to do. So again, with this idea of values are basic and fundamental beliefs that guide and motivate attitudes or actions. And hopefully this description and the text on the screen, you can read and digest and understand. But the purpose and the more important part that I want to point out is that values are the motive behind purposeful action. So I know that as I'm trying to balance the work that I do, as I'm trying to find joy and fulfillment, I know that every project that I sign myself up for, whether it be on the artistic acting side or on the administrative side, my values have to align with the projects. And we were talking a little bit before this project even began. And I was telling them I'm currently in a production that is about enslaved people. It's called Walk by the Way of the Moon. That's happening at Speranza Theater Company here in Jersey City, New Jersey. And I was a little hesitant about the possibility of taking on this role of talking about a play that dealt with slavery, particularly because of the stereotypes and depictions of Black people and enslaved people that we have seen through arts and culture and media and film and television in the past. But this is a play that really centers joy and that centers family and connection and perseverance, particularly for colored and Black people in this country. So I knew that it was important for me, because this play aligned with my values, to give voice to Black and brown people and Black and brown stories that are important. So what are the values that you have inside of you that are going to be able to help you understand your role and your purpose and your calling as it relates to your artistic practice? And this is, very particular for me as a theater artist and as an actor, but maybe you're a dancer, maybe you are a visual artist, maybe you're a sculptor, maybe you're a photographer. You are some kind of creative, but you are trying to find the balance between doing the things that you have to do artistically, but then you might find yourself in these administrative places, because I believe that to be well-rounded artists, to be well-rounded creatives, we actually have to know both sides of the artistic work and the administrative work. And that's how I view the work that I do, is really looking at how do these two things inform each other. I believe to be a well-rounded artist, you have to know the business behind your craft. So I took the extra step of learning the business aspect of theater, because I wanted to know my role. If I'm an actor and I go into a room, I want to know, how do I interact with all of the other players that are going to work together to produce the show, to produce the work, to produce theater. I have to understand what the producer does. I have to understand what the artistic director does. I have to understand how production and the box office folks and marketing all communicate with one another to produce the work. And what role do I play in this ecology of individuals who are all gathered in the room with the same common goal to just create great theater? And I'm sure many folks like me think about that too. Hopefully that they think about, how do I intersect with the person sitting next to me if we have a common goal and our values are aligned to do the work as well. And so these are quick because I want to keep this conversation, brief. But these are the strategies that I have found to help me in finding somewhat of a balance in the work that I do. And it starts with radical communication and transparency. I always tell people whenever I walk into the room that I am equally an actor and an arts administrator. I tell folks that I am passionate about my craft, but I'm also passionate about my business as well. So that requires me sometimes to tell my 9-to-5 job, hey, you're going to see a little bit less of me over these next few weeks because I am in a show. That means I'm going to be in rehearsal. That means I'm going to be tired some days when I show up to work because I've been in rehearsal all night, or we've been in tech rehearsal all day on the weekend. So when I get to work on Monday morning, I need a little grace. And I don't hide that. I don't hide one part of my life from the other. The people that know me as an actor also know that I'm very busy and very passionate about my administrative work. And it takes time management. Like I said, some days I wake up and I start working from the time that I get up in the morning. I work for a few hours and then I have to pause because I need to focus on something on the artistic side. Or I'll go to rehearsal and I'll have to come back. So it does take a lot of time management and understanding how much do you have the capacity and how much time are you willing to dedicate to these different things that you do. I wear many hats. I do a lot of different things as a creative, as an administrator, as a student. So it takes a lot of time, and it takes some diligence and deliberation in how I want to manage my time and what I want to give to each of these different aspects of my life. But even in the process of that, one of the biggest things that I always tell creatives they have to do is take care of themselves. Self-care is really important as we look at producing work. So many of us pour all of our lives, all of our time, and all of our energy and our heart into our craft. And then we deplete ourselves and don't have anything left for us. So how are you stepping away to refill your soul, take care of your body, take care of your mind? How are you taking care of yourself in a way that is going to produce greater work, that is going to produce greater art? We have to nurture our creativity, not just by doing the work, but also stepping back from it to reflect and take time for ourselves as well. And again, in the process of that, centering joy, how are you finding joy in the work that you're doing? How are you finding joy in your art form? It's very important to me that anything that I sign myself up to do brings me joy, because if I'm not, I'm gonna regret it. I'm gonna hate having to show up and do the work. And in return, that impacts my performance. That impacts my performance as an artist and as an administrator, because if I'm sitting in the back of my mind saying, I don't want to be here, that energy goes out into the world. And I'm too sensitive. Erykah Badu said it like this: I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my stuff, and I'm too sensitive about my art to exude that kind of negative energy by not wanting to do something that does not give me joy. And lastly, when we're thinking about this balance, another framework for your mind and how you think about the projects and the art that you create has to be related to your goals. So I find balance in the goal in setting goals, because if I know that I have a particular goal to, as an actor, whether that be to get in front of a particular casting director or artistic director, or possibly even creating more content, truthfully, let's be honest, sometimes that means how much money do I need to be making this month? And so that will push me a little bit more to pursue other opportunities if that I know that it's aligned with my goals. So I think I'm also only going to sign myself up to projects that align with the goals that I'm setting for myself. So how are you setting up the dream for where you want to be? And how does every piece of art, how does every project that you work on connect to that? So hopefully these are just a few ideas of how you can start thinking about, how do I find the balance of being both possibly an administrative worker and an artistic creative as well. Thank you. So I believe Chep is coming and we're going to have a short conversation, but I would love to connect with folks beyond this conversation. You can learn a little bit more about me at these platforms, and I'm happy to discuss. One other service that I provide to other creatives is career coaching and goal setting. So I would love to talk to anyone about their goals as creatives and how I can hopefully help you find a way to balance the work that you do. So once again, thank you, everyone. There you are.
Hi. So thank you so much for the presentation. That was amazing. We appreciate you, and I especially loved when you mentioned the balancing. The perfect balance does not exist. That is so true, and it's nice to know that you're able to juggle both and you're able to do both at the same time. So we're going to move to the question and answer session, and the first question would be, so who is one person you would love to work with, any area of your work? Who is a person you would love to collaborate with?
My favorite actress, Angela Bassett. I would love to work with her on screen, even on Broadway, because I believe being on stage, I find I'm a theater artist at the core of who I am. I do a lot of other things, but theater is my first passion. And if I got the opportunity to work with any actress in the world, it would be her.
That is, amazing. I love Angela. Her emotion when she's, acting, and her emotions, like, she does her work well. The other question would be, have you ever felt like quitting theater? And how did you handle that, if ever?
Yeah, quite recently, actually. I think I was in a place at one time, particularly several months ago, because I wasn't finding the balance. Again, I learned how to ebb and flow, and the balance just was not happening. And I felt like I got into a place where I have poured all of myself into the art. I poured a lot of my time. I think about the time that I've missed with my family. I think about the time that I have, been away in rehearsals or doing shows and couldn't do, things with my friends or with my family. And I just got into a place where I was like, you know what, I don't feel like I'm moving forward. I don't feel like I'm not finding joy in this. I'm not taking care of myself in the process. And it's also not taking care of me. So why keep doing it? But then I had to remind myself, I had a little light bulb moment went off, and I remembered that, again, I believe this is what I've been called to do. There's a difference when you just like something and it is a hobby, and you think, even sometimes for some people, it's about making money. It is not just the money for me, but it is really knowing that this is what I've been called to do and what my assignment is. And when you understand your assignment a little bit better, it makes it more fulfilling. So I knew that there might be some hard days, but I had to remember all of the good times and all of the fulfillment that I did find in doing the work that I do, even when it wasn't producing that for me at that particular time.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, and the other question would be, what could you say is your best work that something that when someone interviews you, you're like, this is it, something that you mentioned first about your work is, your best.
Well, I think I do everything pretty good. Oh, that is so hard because again, I have to think about it in two parts. I have to think about it as an actor and as a creative producer. If I were to tell you as an actor, I would know that my work in the play that I did last year called
Mhm.
Turning at Centenary Stage Company, where I had the opportunity to play Jesse Owens in a play about the Olympics in the year that he won in the early 1900s. And that will probably be my best work as an actor, but as an administrator, I'm really proud. Most recently, I was a producer again for Art Yard, and we produced a reading of a new play by a great playwright that I think everyone should know, Tylee Scheider, called Whittier. And Whittier is focused on a neighborhood in Minneapolis after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. And it was such a dynamic work, and it was more fulfilling for me because I got the opportunity again to create other opportunities for other artists, for a playwright, a Black playwright, to give voice to a particular story about a particular community in a way to hopefully move us forward as a society. So those are my two most recent proud moments that I've been thinking about as a creative worker.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And we appreciate you as the Creatives Collective group, Creatives Everywhere Collective. We appreciate you, and we're glad you could be part of this.
Thank you.
And yes, so yes, I'm going to take this opportunity to yes, Mwata will take over the next session.
Let me see here. So I guess part of what we're at, my dear friend, my new brethren, is the final question, which is in terms of your vision. Mm-hmm. What would you offer as a wisdom piece to the audience? You've shared a lot of pearls of information, and I've been truly impressed by what you've shared. However, what would be your final sharing of information?
Absolutely. My final thought that I think folks hopefully take away from this presentation and this conversation is that no one can ever put you in a box. Again, very early into my career, people tried to tell me that I had to find balance, that I would never be able to do both things. But I like proving people wrong. I like to make my own path. And so I know that it's important to me that people understand that if you have something in your heart that you know you've been called to do, they might be two very different things, but I believe that they can feed one another. And it's important to understand that you can find balance, but balance isn't perfect. Balance can only be defined in the way that you will allow it to be. So how can you step out of the box, step out of the confines of and limitations that other people place on you, and really do some dynamic work that is going to be fulfilling to you as well. So if that's the one piece of advice and wisdom that I can leave with folks, is that you can never allow anyone else to put you into a box and allow their expectations to limit the work that you want to do as a creative.
My friend, you are an inspiration. We are very pleased that you've shared your talent with CreativeSpeak, and we look forward to following you and your work. Please keep us abreast of what you're doing, and we would be happy to share your victories, because we know they're coming, right?
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you to CreativeSpeaks and creatives everywhere for the platform. And I think platforms like this are really important for artists and creatives, particularly creatives of color, to give voice to the work that we're doing out in the world. So thank you.
And we thank the audience. We appreciate your participation and your sharing your time with us. Have a fabulous day and be good.
Thank you.
Be creative.